Episode 56. The lie that saved them. The lie is not spoken. That is what makes it effective. Ethan does not say anything false aloud. He does not write it down. He does not send a message forward or backward. He does not even think the lie in a complete sentence. He arranges it. After EP 55, life has narrowed into a single viable path. No forks, no regret loops, no pending futures waiting to be collapsed. Ethan moves cleanly through days that resolve themselves the moment they are lived. That should make him invisible. It does not. What he begins to sense instead is density, not pressure, load. The system is stable around him, but instability has not vanished. It has migrated. Like water finding the lowest point, debt that can no longer be collected from him directly is redistributing. He notices it in small ways. A coworker faints without warning. A train stalls for no mechanical reason. A child freezes mid-crosswalk, unsure why their body won't move. None of these events correct around Ethan. They correct near him, which means something is still using his proximity as a reference. Time is not hunting him anymore, but it is routing around him. That is the danger. Ethan understands the rule intuitively. If you cannot be charged directly, you become infrastructure. Load passes through you. That realization does not frighten him. It irritates him. Irritation is rare now, which is why he pays attention to it. The system has classified him correctly. Stable, low variance, resolved. So he does the only thing that can disrupt a correct classification. He introduces a false signal. Not randomness. Randomness is noisy and expensive. He introduces consistency that is wrong. The lie begins with routine. Ethan changes nothing visible. He does not break patterns or introduce chaos. He simply allows himself to be observed performing a sequence of actions that imply a future he no longer has. He buys a house brochure he will never use. He asks about a long-term project he has no intention of joining. He sets calendar reminders years ahead and lets them sit untouched. Each action is plausible. Each suggests continuity that does not exist. The system notices. It always does. At 3:07, Ethan feels something for the first time in days. Not pressure. Interest. A faint recalibration hum, like a system checking a variable that no longer matches expectation. Good. That means the signal has been received. Ethan continues. He speaks casually about plans he will never execute. He allows others to assume futures that require his presence. He never confirms them. He never denies them. The lie is not a statement. It is a trajectory. Time does not read minds. It reads vectors. And Ethan is feeding it a vector that points somewhere he will never go. The effect is immediate but subtle. The instability near him decreases. A meeting that should have derailed resolves smoothly. A train delay clears before frustration escalates. The child at the crosswalk moves again, blinking in confusion. Survival through misclassification. The system believes Ethan is still load-bearing in a future that no longer exists. So it reroutes debt elsewhere. That is the gain. Ethan survives without being used as conduit. But something else begins to happen. The debt does not vanish. It scatters. Unpredictably. The coworker who fainted earlier is hospitalized again 2 days later. A different train stalls miles away with no apparent cause. The same child begins having unexplained night terrors. The system is compensating. Blindly. Because the information it received was false. Ethan has not broken the rules. He has exploited them. 3:07, the hum returns, sharper now. Not warning. Rebalancing. Time is not angry. It is confused. Confusion is expensive. Ethan understands the risk. Cleverness does not create safety. It creates volatility. But volatility buys time. And sometimes time is all survival requires. He notices something else then. The lie is not anchored. It requires maintenance. Every day he must reinforce the false trajectory just enough to keep classification skewed. Not too much. Overcommitment would create detectable inconsistency. He walks a narrow band between belief and abandonment. This is dangerous, because maintaining a lie creates future debt. Debt that cannot be predicted because the system is optimizing against a phantom. Ethan accepts this. He has already learned that clean survival is rare. This is not clean. This is tactical. At work, a manager asks him directly, "So you're staying long-term, right?" Ethan meets his gaze and says nothing. The pause is long enough to be interpreted as confirmation. The manager smiles, satisfied. That silence is part of the lie. At 3:07, Ethan feels the system adjust again. The hum spreads outward instead of inward. The load shifts, elsewhere, somewhere he cannot see. That is the cost beginning to manifest. Not immediate loss, but diffusion. Debt that no longer has a clear owner. Time prefers clarity. Ethan has denied it that. He walks home that night feeling something he has not felt since season 2. Unease, not fear of being hunted. Fear of collateral. The lie has saved him, but it has made the system less precise. An imprecision always hurts someone. Ethan stops at a corner and watches traffic flow. For a moment, 2 cars hesitate at the same time, unsure who should go first. They resolve it awkwardly. No accident, but the hesitation lingers in the air. That is the shape of the new instability. Micro-indecisions, misrouted corrections, costs paid by people who were never part of the negotiation. Ethan closes his eyes briefly. He understands the function now. The system allows lies, but it does not absorb them. It redistributes their consequences randomly. Survival achieved through misclassification does not eliminate debt. It fractures it. At 3:07, the silence returns. But it is uneven now. Ethan knows he has crossed into dangerous territory. Not because time will punish him, because cleverness has introduced instability the system cannot localize. The lie worked. He is alive. He is unburdened. But somewhere, unpredictably, the cost is already landing. And when it does, it will not be fair. It will not be targeted. It will not be contained. The lie has saved them, but it has made the world less stable. And that is a debt no system tolerates for long. The problem with a successful lie is that it does not end. Persists. Ethan wakes the next morning with the same narrowed calm he has grown accustomed to, but something underneath it has shifted. The world still resolves cleanly around him. His movements feel approved. His decisions complete themselves without friction. Yet the city feels uneven, not broken, misweighted. On his way to work, he passes an ambulance parked at an intersection where there is no visible emergency. The lights are off. The driver is on the phone, voice tight, frustrated. "Yeah." The driver says, "We got rerouted twice. I don't know why." Ethan keeps walking. This is not his fault, he tells himself. That thought lands too easily. At 3:07, the familiar hum returns, but it no longer centers on him. It moves laterally, like pressure spreading across a surface instead of pressing down through a point. Time is compensating without a clear reference. That is dangerous. The system prefers to correct precisely. When precision is denied, it broadens scope. Small corrections become regional. Individual costs become ambient. Ethan has seen this before. Season 2. Hunting was introduced only after routing failed. He understands the escalation path instinctively. Misclassification, diffusion, strain, reactive control. He has placed the system on that path again. At work, a colleague confides something quietly. "We're losing efficiency across teams," she says. No one can explain why. It's like priorities keep shifting overnight. Ethan nods without comment. He does not reassure her. Reassurance would imply responsibility. He is careful now. The lie must remain impersonal. That is the only way it survives. During lunch, he scrolls through the news. Nothing dramatic. No disasters. Just anomalies. Power outages that resolve themselves. Data mismatches corrected without cause. Transit delays attributed to system synchronization. Language adapting. Blame dissolving. This is how instability hides. The system is smoothing narrative even as it loses accuracy. Ethan understands the deeper cost now. The lie has not only saved him, It has degraded the system's feedback loop. At 3:07, he feels a sudden, sharp clarity. Not pressure. Prediction. If he continues reinforcing the false trajectory, the system will compensate by increasing correction frequency elsewhere. More frequent, less targeted, more human cost. If he stops reinforcing it, the misclassification will collapse violently back onto him. Delayed payment with interest. This is the trap. There is no clean exit from cleverness. That evening, Ethan takes a different route home, not to avoid anything, but to observe. He watches people hesitate at crossings. He sees conversations misalign by seconds. He notices how often people repeat themselves, as if unsure whether they were heard the first time. These are not errors. They are microcorrections failing to converge. The system is guessing now. Guessing always hurts more people than certainty. Ethan stops near a school playground. Children run and shout, movements erratic but joyful. For a moment, the world feels normal. Then a child trips. Not badly, but the fall is wrong. The ground meets him sooner than expected, as if time compressed locally. The child cries, startled more than hurt. A teacher rushes over, soothing him. No one notices the distortion. Ethan does. He feels cold. This is what unpredictable debt looks like. It does not announce itself as catastrophe. It manifests as miscalculated seconds in places that should have been safe. At 3:07, Ethan closes his eyes. He understands something critical then. The system is not trying to expose the lie. It is trying to average it out. And averaging always sacrifices edge cases. Children, the elderly, the distracted, those least able to absorb sudden shifts. The lie has made survival unfair in a way time normally avoids. That is why cleverness is dangerous. Time prefers brutality to ambiguity. At home, Ethan sits in the dark and considers his options. Confess. There is no one to confess to. Stop reinforcing the trajectory. That would not restore accuracy. It would create a sudden collapse as the system reclassifies him violently. Double down. That would accelerate diffusion. None of the options are clean. This is the true cost. Not guilt. Constraint. Cleverness has reduced his future options more than any direct correction ever did. 3:07, his phone buzzes. A message from an unknown number. Just one line. Variance increasing. No threat. No accusation. Status. The system is not speaking to him. It is logging. Ethan deletes the message. Immediately, somewhere far away, something resolves incorrectly. He feels it as a faint nausea, not localized, not personal. He understands the linkage now. The lie has made him a noise source, not hunted, referenced. Every action he takes creates ripples the system can no longer trace cleanly. This is worse than being targeted. Targeting is precise. Noise is global. Ethan stands and opens the window. The city hums unevenly below. Sirens rise and fall without pattern. Lights flicker in buildings where power should be stable. Nothing catastrophic. Yet, he realizes then why this episode matters. The lie did not break time. It degraded trust. Not human trust. Systemic trust in its own data. Once that erodes, every correction becomes more expensive, more aggressive, more likely to overshoot. At 3:07, the silence arrives unevenly. Some sounds dampen. Others sharpen. Ethan breathes slowly. The lie has saved him, but it has placed the system into a state it cannot tolerate indefinitely. He knows what comes next. Either the system will isolate the source of noise, or it will escalate control to reassert clarity. Both outcomes are bad. For him, for everyone else. Ethan closes the window and sits back down. He does not undo the lie. He does not reinforce it tonight. He lets it drift. That is a risk. But risk is now unavoidable. The cost of cleverness is never paid by the clever alone. At 3:07, the minute passes. Somewhere, a clock skips half a beat. Somewhere else, a person hesitates and cannot explain why. The system is losing precision. And Ethan understands the final function of this episode. Lies do not defeat time. They only force it to choose between cruelty and chaos. And time always chooses the option that restores control fastest, even if that choice destroys everything in between.